And so, basically, Alex, first off, congratulations for calling. That was a wise move.
Oh, thanks.
Um,
Appreciate
and
that.
also, congratulations for reaching a place so that you can get some momentum going and feeling like that you're on top of the world.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
exactly what we're practicing here is getting on top of the world. But as you've already heard me talk about it, in the sense that we need to get on top of the world, our own world, in seclusion to get our
Yeah.
own mind together.
Yeah.
And when we get our own mind together, then we can go out into the world and see if we can keep that mind together while we're dealing with the ups and downs of other people's ups and downs.
Yep. That's what I did. And
Okay.
I got my data.
Right. And you can congratulate yourself for figuring out quickly that you couldn't handle it.
Yeah.
And there's no reason for you to continue to do that. I mean, there's so many examples.
Yeah.
Sticking your hand in the fire
Right.
is no cure for
Yeah.
having stuck your hand in the fire before.
Yeah.
Or as Mitch McConnell says, there's no education in the second kick of a mule.
I don't know if I know that one.
Well, he's actually wrong. But I have seen not only in real life years and years ago, but in recently I have seen that on videos. And
Mm,
generally, the dog needs to get kicked twice.
mm,
Generally, because the first time that the mule wasn't watching carefully enough. But when the dog keeps bothering him, the next kick is going to be well placed. And there goes
mm.
that dog. And so that's the whole point is, and I use it in the expression, the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune,
Mm.
that you can see that stuff coming and learn to dodge it. But
Yeah.
you have to be able to see it coming and not
Yeah.
dodge it in order to recognize the danger in it.
Mm,
So that
mm.
next time you can see that kick coming and you can stand out of the way.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what had happened, right? I was dodging left and right. I was like, oh, that's missed me. This missed me. Look at that. Oh, wow. Oh, my God. This is great. And then all of a sudden, it's like, oh, fuck. Oh, no.
Yeah, that's right. Sometimes a knockout happens in the 15th round. You go 14 rounds and you've got it made, okay? And then that 15th round, and we've gotten tired or whatever, and then,
Well, what's
right?
interesting is I talked to Dan this morning, and he was like, brother, you just got knocked out. You did great. You did great. You dodged this one and that one and this one and that one. You just got knocked out, though. You're on the ground. And I'm saying, brother, come on, let's go out of the ring now. And you're like, wait, no, Dan, come on. I want to give it one more shot. And your eye's bleeding. And
Uh-huh.
I didn't understand it. I really didn't understand it. And I honestly, from his perspective, what he said he was hearing is that I was trying to bargain. I was trying to find a way in which it would be wise for me to continue with this girl.
Mm-hmm.
And I was. I was.
Right. Okay.
Because this time is different. This
I'm
time is different.
I know. And I must speak about the wisdom of Dan, that in fact this point that we're making now about the bargaining or the figuring it out or whatever is actually part of Elisabeth Kübler-Ross's um, it's actually this sequence is done in a book she calls On Death and Dying. It's about hospice.
Hmm.
When people figure out that they're going to die, What do they do between the time that they recognize they've been told, they've been diagnosed or whatever, until they're dead? What happens? Okay, there's a sequence of events that happen, and some people never get to the full issue. And the full issue would be complete acceptance
Yeah.
that I'm dying and I'm dead.
Yeah.
Okay. But the first thing that happens is we get all pissed off. We don't believe it. We want a second opinion. We
Mhm.
start negotiating with the doctor. Well, what if I go to the gym?
Yeah.
Or why don't you take both the pancreas and the kidneys and the livers out? Maybe I'll survive that too, you know. So, but
Right.
we get into without recognizing that some things are better left dying and dead because
Mm.
everything dies anyway.
Mm.
Every person dies. Every relationship, therefore, dies. Every relationship dies. There comes a time when a son is no longer a son because mama's dead or he is. So when we recognize that that cycle is real, that it does happen, and that it's the cycle of samsara, and in the sense of that cycle, it's like the winning and losing. When we win, we're on top, and then when we lose, we're on the bottom. And then when we win, we okay. But what happens with the way that you had gotten yourself into is you were feeling like you were losing a lot. And then you started Anapanasati and you started winning a lot.
Mhm.
And then you thought that, well, if I can win this one, I can win everything. And the answer to that is no. But the skills that you developed in getting over one thing will be the same skills that need to develop so that you can get over the next cycle,
Mhm.
the next death.
Yeah.
And from what you told me about this relationship, it doesn't meet, or let us say, the people, the person involved with it, doesn't meet your moral standards.
Mm.
You mentioned that. Okay, we can go into details, but I thought that we'd just leave it at that because you know what I'm talking about.
Um.
Dating a married man, for
Oh.
instance, is not up to
Yeah.
your moral standards.
Yeah.
Okay, especially if you're the married man
Yeah.
who winds up in the hot water and losing a good relationship because you were piddling around with one that didn't exist. Okay, so you can see that from both sides. And you can also recognize that that you're probably not going to win this one. That in fact, if she is doing those kinds of things, she's going to continue to do those kinds of things. And then not only that, but she's going to come back and brag to you about it as a way of keeping dominance. And so you
I don't.
calling the,
I don't think that's what she was doing. At
well,
least it didn't. It. I couldn't tell if it was. I couldn't tell. The attitude and spirit with which she was sharing this information didn't seem to come from uh, being superior or trying to assert her dominance over me. But
well, it may have been subtle
okay.
and it may have been that it was clearly obvious and you were still missing it.
Mm.
Okay.
Mhm.
That as you said that she was drinking, so I
Mhm.
assumed that meant that you were drinking too.
Mhm. Mhm.
All right.
Not
Eric
much.
Berne,
But yeah.
Eric Berne has two games that alcohol that are played with alcohol. I wouldn't call the people who were doing it alcoholics directly because there's other factors with that. But there's two games that players draw,
Mm.
drinkers play. One of them is drunk and proud, and the other one is
Hmm.
lush.
Hmm.
And men and women play both parts. Okay. And not only that, but the lush, um, let us say, is the one who is crying in their beer. In fact, you can look at it in the sense of how the beer mug is held determines which game that they're playing.
Hmm.
If it's down and they're looking into it, that's the lust. If they're holding it up above their head, that's the drunken proud. And more than likely, if she had not been drunk, uh, but it's
Yeah,
also possible sober that she
yeah.
would play that game with you. The drunken proud of look what I've been doing, um,
Well, it's
without.
interesting you say that because a couple weeks ago she had told me that she went out with a 42-year-old, but not that he was married. So it wasn't until last night actually that she told me he was married, and she said she didn't tell me because she thought that it would be too much for me to hear. So
Uh-huh. So she thought it would be too much to deal with, and you're
yeah.
ratting it out right now that it was too much for you to deal with.
Hmm.
Hmm.
So maybe it was a drunken proud kind of thing.
Right. Hmm. So that drunken proud is an item uh, that when we recognize these games that we play when we are drunk should be enough for us to recognize that it's probably not a wise idea to get drunk.
Yeah, yeah,
That
yeah.
there's a whole
I
lot of laws and rules and regulations against it is also bad for our health.
yeah.
And one item that's an issue with me
Mm,
is that I don't like the taste. I don't like the taste of beer. I don't like the taste of wine. Why do people drink that stuff? It doesn't even taste good. That
yeah,
if you go for, let us say, a bar mixed drink, the reason that the bartender mixes the drink the way that
yeah,
they do is to make it palatable so that you
yeah,
can stand the alcohol that's in it.
yeah, for sure. It's the biggest joke.
Um, on that particular note, looking at it from that position, people who are in war want to drink
Hmm,
to get away from the war. And the time when they're
hmm.
most likely to get really super drunk is right before the battle they know they're going to lose.
Oh man.
Down deep inside, they know that they're going to lose it. So that was what was happening with the Russian army. Now is on a solid drunk this week.
It's interesting you're saying all this because it's been very difficult to know other because we can only trust our direct experience, right? But it's been very difficult to know for sure whether or not she is being honest with herself when she says that she is not addicted to alcohol, right? That there's no addiction there. Because what she'll say is that she's
Either
trying,
addiction doesn't exist or every human being is addicted. Those are the
right?
two possibilities.
Oh, right.
Okay.
Oh, for sure. And there's a spectrum
Hmm.
within all that, right? Um, but she had expressed many times that she's just kind of doing things in moderation, but and she's learning to drink less and not drink as much, and I feel like these past 2 months of not being in contact with her have allowed me to see all the ways in which I projected my own fear and insecurity on her, and making it about the alcohol when really it was just about me. And so I could see, hey, I respect you. I have a deeper respect for you. Like, she loves bartending. I used to think she just likes bartending so she can be around the alcohol. Well, maybe she does. But the words that are coming out of her mouth is that she just enjoys talking with people, being with the people. She's good at it. We all like to do things we're good at. We all like to experience that success
Uh-huh.
and winning,
Right.
right?
I
But
was about to mention that before you
yeah,
said it, and that is when you said, "Oh, she likes to be around the alcohol." I was about to say that actually it's more likely that she likes to be around the people who are drinking alcohol.
yeah,
And here you come right out with it, that yes, that's the case.
yeah.
Um, a good bartender will do two things. One, he'll become a psychologist, and two, he'll quit his job.
Yeah, man. I mean, she's going in deep. She's thinking of quitting her recruiting job that she has that pays her a salary and just working at another bar because she just would rather do that. But anyway, we don't need to get all into the weeds of that. What I was going to tell you though is last night we hung out, and it has always been pretty clear that she's more vulnerable and intimate when she's drinking. And what that brought up to me, that made me think of what you said about how people will drink before they're about to lose the battle, before they know they're going to lose the battle. And
Mhm.
I think this losing battle for her is probably intimacy with me. It's like, hey, this will make it easier, kind of thing. But it's you said maybe it's best to just let things die, to let the relationship die, right? What is that? What does that actually look like?
First off, how long have you been together? Probably about 2 years, huh?
We were on and off for like nine. The foundation was terrible, Dhammarato. We started off as friends, and I basically told her that I was unsure about her in the very beginning. And then, little do we know, a year later, she's unsure about me. So, in a
Mhm.
very weird sense, I feel as though I kind of created this for myself in a way, or at least created, conditioned uh, the relationship to end the way it did.
Okay. Well, we have, as humans, two competing instinctual systems. One of them is more natural and primitive, and the other one is normal because of culture that has built up in the past 10,000 years. So let's talk about it pre 10,000 years ago when we were hunters and gatherers, as
Mhm.
opposed to what society has imposed upon us. If you can get those two distinctions, you'll see that progress that happens within each one of us.
Okay.
Okay. In 10,000 years ago, relationships between a man and a woman, the man in the, actually, it was mostly tribal, so that the child that was born belonged to the tribe more so than the father. But when the kid was old enough, the dad was proud of him to take him hunting. That in fact that was the rite of passage, is to take the kid hunting. Because if the kid is able to do the hunting with the tribe, with the men in the tribe, then he's the man. If he's
Mhm.
too little to go hunting, then he belongs with mommies and children.
Mhm.
Now, the point of it is that in primitive times, how old was a young boy or a young man, when he first starts going hunting? Is it the age of 25?
I don't think so.
No, I don't think so. Why is that? It's because 25 is almost over the hill.
Right.
But
Yeah.
if you look at athletes, in fact, it looks like that an example would be the 13-year-old girl who is a gymnast.
Uh-huh.
Right. Okay. But we can go back earlier than that because we recognize that kids are put to work in the fields at the age of about 6. In fact, the age of 6 is why we start school, is because the kid is old enough then to be ordered around, etc., like that, or he's smart enough to do things on his own. Okay. Now that's an important point. If a 6-year-old is capable of taking care of himself, then he doesn't need daddy anymore. And so, in the really, really primitive times, a relationship would last about 6 or 7 years, and that was it. There was no
Mm.
reason to have a marriage or a relationship after that. No,
Mm.
what happened was society came in, and with society, the understanding of ownership of land, ownership of property, ownership of kinfolks, and
Mm-hmm.
daddy owns his daughter. That in
Mm.
fact, in India, the whole idea of the dowry is the father comes by and says, "You owe me all of this equipment because I raised this girl for you."
Mm.
Okay. And so dowries and purchase and all of that kind of came in. And so on the other side of it, oh, well, if you're going to sell this girl to me, she's mine permanently. She can't sneak back home.
Mm.
She's mine forever. Another one
Mm.
is that, oh, I don't want to catch any cooties from her,
Mm.
and she better not already be pregnant. Okay, so that's where the old idea about virgins came in. And
Mm.
now the ones who are religious pick that up and start running with it. Okay, and so now we
Mm.
come up with institutions like marriage. And everyone in our society looks at marriage as, oh, it only works if it lasts and lasts and lasts and lasts. And that's not even normal. It's not natural. A
Mm.
normal working marriage. Now, the next thing is that over time, children wind up in a very primitive society at age 6 are quite capable. But in a complicated society, they need some complication, and that complication takes years.
Mm.
That at one time, the age of reason or the age of adulthood was 12 years old. This is the time of the bar mitzvah, about 2,000 years ago. Um, then it became like a high school. Military, in fact, they want the kids at best at about 16 to 18.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're trainable. A 22-year-old is going to be slower in following orders. You can't intimidate a 22-year-old the way you can an 18-year-old. You
Mm.
cannot intimidate a 35-year-old nearly as well as you can an 18-year-old. And a 75-year-old man is going to laugh at you. Okay. You want me to do how many push-ups? Okay, so that's the thing is that over the period of time, the age of reason or the age of adulthood has changed, and it's always been political in the sense of if I can get drafted at the age of 18, why can't I drink and why can't I vote at the age of 18? Well, an 18-year-old in our society is not mature. That's why they wanted to raise the gun age because 18-year-olds can buy guns. And now we have all of this weaponry with all of these school shootings. School shootings. Why are they at the schools? Is because it's the kids who are doing the shooting. And so raising the age to 21 is a way of doing it. But I think they ought to raise the age to about 35 when people are fully adults before they can get a gun. I would put the right to.
That's a good idea. Yeah.
Mhm. Um, so what we're looking at now is that you were caught in that area or the bind of recognizing when the relationship is over naturally,
Mm.
but you're supposed to stay in the relationship because society tells you to.
Mm.
So look at that for yourself to recognize what are you crying over? The breaking of the rule of how it's important to keep relationships? Or are you crying over the fact that a really good relationship is ending prematurely? Or is the relationship ending at the right time, but it's against the rules to do it that way?
I think it's something in the middle
Okay, got
of
elements
those
of
two.
both of them, huh? You got both
Yeah,
legs stuck in the on the
I,
bananas.
actually, I wouldn't. I mean, there might be some cultural, things in there because I mean, I guess in some to some degree that's kind of inescapable, right? Because that's kind of what I'm part of.
That's right. Atheists,
But
in fact, in the West, when we talk about how Christianity has so much stuff in the culture, the atheist says, "Well, I'm not a Christian; they don't affect me." Hey, man, Christianity is the water we fish swim in. And we don't even know how deep into that culture
yeah,
those mores, traditions, expectations, etc.,
okay,
uh,
so
go to.
even if
All
you don't
right.
go to church, yeah,
Um, Actually, the ones who don't go to church are actually more affected by it than those who do,
yeah, I could
because
see
those
that.
who continue to go to church get permission somehow to get away with it.
Hmm.
In other words, the rules that God set down to his children means that the children now are the ones who dispense the rules. And so they're going to dispense
Mm,
them around to the other people without
mm.
following them themselves. This is why there's so many opportunities for preachers who will scream at from the pulpit
Yeah,
about
yeah.
what people are supposed to be doing. And within a year, they're caught doing those things themselves.
Yeah, so in that same
Okay.
regard, you could say the same thing about people that go to church. They're just as worse off as the ones that don't.
Hmm. Now, well, here's one of the things then that's interesting. We know that, let us say it this way because the evidence is this way. The research
Mm,
has been done this way, count by county, county by county. And so the counties are then kind of listed as red or blue. And basically, it's not really the red or blue. It's what they're measuring is two things. One is they're measuring how much population of this county is religious and how much.
mm,
And then the other thing that they're taking from this county is the public records from the police and uh, county services and all of that kind of stuff and putting that data together. And this is what they have found is that places that have very, very low church attendance have very much better uh, society in the sense that it's the ones who go to church are the ones who drink, they fight, they get into bar scenes, they have automobile accidents, they have domestic
mm,
violence, they do
mm,
drugs, all of this kind of stuff. And then they go hop into the church and get forgiveness. And
mhm,
then they're back
mhm,
out on the street again.
mhm.
To where when someone's an
Yeah,
atheist and gives up that Christian stuff, they begin to recognize, oh, I am responsible for myself.
yeah,
I
yeah.
have to do it myself. I cannot go beating up my family because if I beat up my family, the cops are going to come and deal with me, and I can't go pray that away.
Mm, mhm.
Okay. And so the society's rules that Christianity sets down, actually, then everybody is subject to that. It's built into our legal systems. That in fact, that's what legislation is legislation is legislating morality. What else can it do? They say you can't legislate morality. What are you going to legislate?
Hmm. Yeah, pretty dependent on that, huh?
Yes, right, exactly. Especially penal codes.
Especially
Penal
what?
institutions. Penal. It's the word where the word prison comes out of. Penal, punishment. Okay.
Okay.
Rather than what we teach in Buddhism is rehabilitation,
Mm,
not punishment.
for sure. Yeah.
Okay. Is to rehabilitate. Now, there's a difference between, let us say in Thailand, between the government and the Wat. If someone
Mm,
goes into the Wat, he's going there to be rehabilitated. If he goes in jail, he's going there to get punished.
hmm. Yeah.
Okay. So that's the difference. In Christianity, though, they go to the church to get permission.
Mm-hmm.
They go to get forgiveness.
Yep.
And so they get neither the punishment nor the rehabilitation.
Yeah.
So with that, the way that we can take this information
Mm-hmm.
is to recognize that you do have this duality within you. The very,
Mm-hmm.
very primitive stuff, our real genes, are saying that the relationship is finished, it's over. The girl doesn't do the kinds of things that I would want to have someone around to do. That in fact, she's not very mature.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so um, with this understanding, you can easier let go of the relationship instead of keeping the idea of, oh, I want a relationship, or I should have, or I deserve a relationship, which is actually much more of the society kind of thing.
Yeah. Right. And actually, one thing I wanted to share is that these past couple months, I have gone out on dates and stuff, and like just had fun and meet women. But gotta be honest with you, it's gotten to a point where I have no interest. I have no interest in other women except for the one I was in a previous relationship with. But even now, I'm seeing that I can't have that. But I guess what I'm saying is, since completing this time together again, I do not feel a propulsion to jump on a dating app and meet women again. I have zero interest in it whatsoever.
Well, actually, that's a very natural occurrence.
Yeah.
And what we're looking at is that, in fact, when one becomes interested in the Dhamma,
Yeah.
we start looking at how the things fit in according to the Dhamma, and we recognize then that many of the things that I have been doing don't cause the satisfaction that I was looking for, that it causes dukkha instead, that it's a
Mm-hmm.
mixed bag at best.
Mm-hmm. Mixed
And when we
bag. Yeah.
recognize that things are a really mixed bag in there, that's when we begin to then weigh the advantages to the disadvantages.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
A phrase that's used in business is a cost benefit analysis.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Um, and so this is what we begin to do. This is wisdom, by the way, is to do that cost benefit analysis, to look at the gratification that I was seeking
Yeah. Yeah.
doesn't come purely by itself. It comes in a package called
Yeah.
trouble.
Yep. Yep. Yeah.
And
Very
when
much so.
and when we see that, we're much more careful about who we choose to
Mm-hmm.
associate with.
Mm-hmm.
That in fact, that's what the Sangha is all about, is when we are looking for good people to associate with and we
Yeah.
find each other. A lot of people who start the practice of meditation and whatnot, they begin to feel alone because no one in their
Mm.
community is interested in the realities of life. So everybody around is more interested in the social stuff of life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so finding people who are worthy of your association.
Yeah.
Okay. This is, by the way, what the word arahat meant. The
Mm.
word arahat does not mean some highfalutin Buddhist kind of term that so many of them have with this, and this in order to qualify. The actual word arahat means to be worthy, worthy of
Okay.
respect, worthy of
Okay.
gifts, worthy of spending my time with.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so it's for you, I'm worthy of your time. And for me, you're worthy of my time. Right. So be sure that the people that you associate with are worthy of your time.
Yeah.
And getting drunk and listening to poor, either drunk and proud or poor me stories is not really a good way to spend your time.
Yeah. I I don't really drink much ever, honestly. I was just doing it because we were having a good time, and
Well, it is
just was joining
considered
in.
celebration.
Yeah.
That's part of it. And guess what? That comes from Christianity.
Mm.
The celebration of the wine and
Mhm.
Eucharist and the Last Supper and drinking the wine and all of that kind of stuff makes that now alcohol is special. The next thing that makes it special is we tell children, oh, you can't have it. You're not old enough,
Yeah, for
which makes
real.
the kid want it more.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
in fact, if you give a 12-year-old or a 10-year-old a taste of beer and say you
Yeah.
probably won't like this, and the kid says, yeah, I don't like this, and he'll be
Yeah.
better off. But if you tell that same 8 or 10 or 12-year-old, oh, you can't have beer, now he wants it.
Yep.
And he'll
Yep.
drink it no matter how bad it tastes.
Mm.
So this is the way that our psychology or the way that society works puts us in a really, really bad state. The society is not there for the welfare and the benefit of any particular person.
Yeah.
And
And
therefore,
yeah.
everybody in the society winds up suffering from it.
Yeah, that's good. It's
And
good
it
way to
looks
see.
like that those who are heirs to a fortune are the ones who suffer the most.
Who are what to the fortune?
Heirs to a fortune. Daddy's got a lot of money. Daddy's the big money bags, which means daddy's the biggest asshole in town.
Mm. Mm.
And he's an asshole to his kids. And he holds that big money bag up and says, you do what I say, or you're not going to get any of this.
Mhm.
Mhm. And so um, they want the kids then wind up being a Donald Trump. I heard about this from my high school Latin teacher when she was teaching ancient Latin and Roman culture. She pointed out that a father or a mother who wants power winds up destroying their children. But it's also possible for the grandfather or the grandmother to see how damage they did to their own kids, and then their grandkids they begin to treat really well. And
Mm.
so it is
Mm.
better then in a dynasty to skip a generation
Mm.
because the big tough dude, the emperor, is going to have an asshole for a son,
You
but he's
break
probably going to
the
have a
pattern.
pretty good grandson.
Yeah.
All right. So there's not much reason to talk about this other than to recognize how much our society has screwed us up.
Oh, for sure.
And that we can, in fact, begin to recognize the difference between what you're supposed to do or what rules you're supposed to follow versus how you actually feel about this girl. And the way that you're
Yeah.
feeling about the girl is that you really don't want that much of her. That's what I've gotten from you.
Yeah, I like that you brought that up because I think that's kind of, it'd be great if I could have some clarity around that because I think that's probably why I keep going back because there's not like a real solid clarity. But what I can tell you is when her and I are together, there is kind of just like this. It seems at least, unless I don't know what love is, I think it's probably a mix of attachment and authentic love, that there is really just a deep care for her, a real just love for
Well,
her, and a genuine interest in her benefit. And you know
that's good. That's positive. I congratulate you on that. But instead of nozzling it down, like a strong spray, like for cleaning. What we want to do is open that valve and spread it all over. In other words,
Yeah.
well, there's many ways to say it. One is love the one you're with,
Yeah.
as opposed to wanting someone else over there. Go ahead and bring that up. That, in fact, another way that we can talk about it, this part of the society, is the whole idea of soulmate. The Christians
Right.
go around saying there's some place out there is a
Yeah.
girl for you, and the guys go around looking at every girl, putting up against a model that he's got in his head.
Yeah. For sure.
That one of the things that I learned, that was actually quite beneficial to me. When I was 14, playing the piano, I got a recital piece. In fact, the teacher may have had this wisdom. She gave me a piece of music to learn to play. The name of it was There's Lots of Good Fish in the Sea. The sea, there's lots of good fish in the sea. You know immediately what that means. It's sexualized,
Hmm.
right? Stop thinking that someone is it,
Yeah. Yeah.
and instead recognize that there are a lot of good fish in the sea. Let's go find someone that fits in with um, the way that I think and the way that I look. That, in fact, that's one of the reasons why I knew that the only way I was ever going to find a woman is by going to Thailand, because Western women don't think so. But that
Let
came
me.
from a different. Go ahead.
Can I? Can I ask you this? You know, she. I guess like the most difficult part about all this is she often has said to me, like in this past week as we've hung out, is that even though she can't commit, even though she has a fear of intimacy, even though she wants to explore with other people, she says that no one holds a candle to me. She said she'll go out with other guys and she won't want to do anything with them. And she'll just basically go home and cry and think about me. She hasn't had sex with anybody because she doesn't feel right doing that. Like she only wants to be that way with me. And she thinks that eventually, when she's all kind of, she's gotten her experience and have seen clearly that there isn't greener grass on the other side, and she sees how good of a partner I am, that she'll eventually come back and, you know, whatever, want to be with me. And that's
That
hard
would
to
be
hear.
possible.
That's
Hmm.
hard to hear. That's hard to hear because, well, it's great to hear, but it's hard to hear because it's like, well, but we're not together right now. But I get it. I get it. It's just, it's confusing for me because I am, I'd say, more or less available. And yeah, I don't know. It's just, that's it. That's it. I guess my question for you would be, why do I keep going back to her? What is it that I haven't seen that keeps me going around in this dance?
Um, Basically, because you have put so many thought moments into thinking about her,
Mm-hmm.
that you've ground a pathway in the mind, a neurological pathway that leads
Mm-hmm.
directly to thoughts of her.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the way that you're going to interrupt that is recognizing that every time that you have begin to have a thought of her, you can say, I can change that. And I
Mm-hmm.
can come out of what I don't have and start looking at what I do have. Like this moment, this breath, this is all we need. We're okay right now. Okay. That's
Mm-hmm.
the thing that we need to start doing, is the anapanasati, to remember to think about the things that you have rather than remembering to think about the things you don't have.
Mm-hmm.
That's number one. Number two, we have already talked about Sadie Hawkins. Have we not? Do you remember Sadie Hawkins?
Remind me.
Well, it's also the 29th of February. Girls' Night Out It's girls' opportunity to dance with the boys. In fact, one of the students says, oh, they had a Sadie Hawkins dance when he was in high school. But the reality is that the whole idea of Sadie Hawkins is for guys to start taking a more feminine role and sit back and relax and wait and let the women do all the work. Reverse these roles, because these roles are not natural. They're not in nature. They're not built into our genes. It's that's the way that things are supposed to be done in our society. The boys are supposed to go after the girls. The girls are supposed to play coy or hard to get. Okay. That's, by the way, back into the Christian stuff. I mean, this stuff has been around for so long, and all of this cultural stuff. So what we can do is interrupt that game and sit back and wait for her, but not wait for her, but just to go live your life.
Go live my life.
And take your life and take your mind off of her and let her have all of the mental machinations about the relationship.
So, I told you about these past 2 months, right? That's basically essentially what I did. Any thought I ever had about her, I just would rest, let it go.
That's why I congratulated you for that. Yes.
And it was great. And then she came back.
Uh-huh.
So my question is like have I just not done that enough, essentially, then? Just haven't let go of those mind moments enough such that when she came back, I was pulled back into familiar patterns and so on and so on. And
yes,
it also may just be the
but
case
congratulate yourself for seeing that.
Yeah.
Okay, look at the bright side of life rather than fussing at yourself. Oh, you got stuck in it again. Recognize, oh, wow, I'm getting stuck in this stuff again.
Yeah.
All right. And then never mind, start again. Okay. Then, in fact, she pulled you in. You both got drunk. Now she's got a drunken crowd going, leaving you with nothing but lust.
I didn't get drunk. I did not get drunk.
No, but she did. That's what you said.
Yeah, she
and,
did.
And then that's when she pulled out that she was playing around with married men, which is a very dangerous thing to do.
Yeah.
More dangerous for him than for her, because she's got less to lose.
Yeah.
But she ought to have the moral respect for this guy to say no.
Well, she did, and then they went out anyway 2 weeks later. But
okay. So maybe she needs to see a disaster.
Yeah.
For her to get the point that that's not appropriate behavior. But it was also not appropriate behavior to advertise that she had done that to you.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, I mean, I remember she had said after that, she was saying things like, see, it's about personality to me. Like he acted like he was young, like he was 20, and I like that. So who knows? Like if I came across a 70-year-old and they had a similar personality, yeah, I might kiss them. She was saying things like this, and I was like, wow.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think what I've done, Dhammarato, is basically anytime I notice a potential like incompatibility, for instance, that thing that she said, right? I have a tendency to see it as like, whoa, I didn't like that. But then I use that as practice. Like, oh, there, just let go, just rest. That's fine.
That's right. That's right.
But
you're learning. Keep going. That's it. Uh-huh.
But is it also the case though that some things, like I think what you're pointing to here is that like there's a maturity difference, or like you said, she shouldn't have been advertising that. Is it also the case that no matter how much I can accept things as they are, no matter how much we can rest from our own opinions and dislike of points of view of what we have towards someone, it doesn't mean necessarily that that's the end all be all. That's essentially sometimes it's just not a good thing. Maybe it's just not a good thing to be with someone that does things like that or says things like that, or you know,
Right,
is that
exactly.
is
Hmm.
that
My
is that
mother knew that
right?
also and warned me about it, but she was only looking at it in the sense of education. To have a high school dropout and someone with a master's degree, she would see is not a good match. Okay. But we can refine that to understand it in the sense of wisdom rather than education, the wisdom of life. And you're gaining a lot of that with your practice and associating with a Sangha and other things like this, to where she has no spiritual guide at all. She's got no spiritual practice, or she's got no self-improvement things going on. That she's still out what you would say experimenting.
She is
And
with a
I
therapist, but she sees him once a month. So, but it's good. She is in therapy. So.
once a month.
Yeah.
Good luck with that.
Yeah. It's because it's so expensive. That's why she hasn't done it more. But
Right. I
yeah.
understand. And psychiatrists and psychologists are really good with that. That means
Yeah.
that, I mean, that's once a month, got a client for the next 30 years.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what's good is he is really familiar with Buddhism and stuff, and he's been practicing it for years as well. It's been a big part of his practice, so I think that's good. But I think you're right. I think you're absolutely right that there is a big maturity difference, a big gap in our understanding of
Hmm.
life and of ourselves. Which, yeah, I guess that is bound to cause complications, isn't it?
Hmm.
Yeah. I just wish, Dhammarato, I could just see plainly and clearly, like, oh, I'm not gonna get into that anymore. I'm good. That would be
Right.
great. I just haven't seen it yet, and I
I
feel like
know.
I'm
And I
I'm
would
trying
rather
to
see,
convince myself.
I would rather you see the fact that everything is in a cycle.
Mm,
Seeing the cycle is what's going to help us get out of the cycle. So you got to
yeah,
keep seeing those cycles over and
yeah.
over and over again. Begin to see that stuff up, down,
Up,
back,
down, up,
forth,
down.
in, out. You know the whole show.
Yeah.
Everything.
Oh, and hey, that's another thing, right? I have never experienced a more like amazing connection during sex with another person. And she actually said the same thing to me. Like no more greater, like just very it's like
Okay.
we just completely melt into each other. And that's a hard thing to let go of too.
I know. I know. Great sex is part of the promise of our society. If you buy enough makeup and buy enough expensive clothes and do, take her to the nicest restaurant, then the sex will be great. When you recognize that ejaculation is just ejaculation and that you feel better after you do it rather than while you're in it, that they
Mm.
call it a sex drive because it drives us around. You're not in control. Your gonads are. And there's so much that's talking about that. Which head are you thinking with? So that's the whole idea, is to thinking that great sex means the relationship is great. It's not true at all.
Hmm.
Generally, great sex happens when we haven't had it for a long time. And so they won't recognize that it's ordinary. But if you have great sex every day, what's the great?
Hmm.
Right?
Well, what if
That
it's
is,
not driven purely by just trying to ejaculate? That it's really there's like some kind of there's like a real like I don't like I guess I experience being when I'm in sex, engaging in sex with her, last couple times we've had sex, it's like I don't see her as separate or like as an other. It's almost like as an extension of
Hmm.
myself, and like
Well,
we're
they talk about
one
it like that
whole.
as a union, okay?
Yeah,
And that you are together there in the same mental state of
yeah,
loving,
yeah,
okay? Being in love and in a loving relationship is what it gives the best part of the feeling. And then we add that to the sex.
yes, yes,
All right. So recognizing that you can have that experience with many, many different kinds of people. You can relate to many kinds of people. There is a lot of good fish in the sea, and not all of them are trout.
okay, okay,
Okay. So, yes, sex with her was good. That doesn't mean anything.
okay,
That in fact, uh, there's another side of it, and that is that the very, very best sex is after an argument. Have
mm-hmm,
you ever heard of that one?
mm-hmm,
Right? Why? Because they have been unhappy and dissatisfied, and
mm-hmm,
now they resolved it and they're longing, and now they come together.
mm-hmm.
Okay. Rather than just having ordinary sex, now they've come together and having sex. So that having sex after a big argument is something that is well known in our culture too, because sex is really good. But it's good not because of the sex; it's good because of the union that they have
Yeah.
after the
Uh-huh.
argument. Okay.
I would say that I think my angle in this is that I experienced the most depth vulnerability with her and from her during sex, not outside of it. So in conversation, it's rarely ever there. It's usually in sex.
Okay. All
And so
right.
that's
Well,
probably why there's an
all
issue.
right. Okay. Knowing now that that's an experience, but that in general that there are other experiences to have, that you in fact can go for that intimacy with your relationship with people rather than sexual.
Yes. Yes. Well, and
Okay.
I've wanted to have that with her, and she's not there.
Right.
She's not there.
Right. So she's still immature in that regard, of not recognizing that the real relationship is not in the bed. A real marriage is a connection between two people where uh, uh, they speak the same language so well together they don't even
Yeah.
have to talk. That in fact,
Yeah.
Tam and I will look at each other in a particular way, and both of us will just burst out laughing. We do not have to have the word between it. We know what's going on.
That's
Okay,
nice.
that's a connection. All right. But it gets started with sexuality, but in the case that you've got, it's just remaining there that you don't really have that really deep connection with her.
Yeah.
But you can't.
Except for when she typically after a night of drinking, she'll come to me and she's more vulnerable and more intimate and sharing herself and crying, and then I hold her and I'm
Right.
like, "Oh,
That's
it's
the lush.
okay. This
That's
is
the
great."
lush.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. And a lot of people need to get into that lush state with the alcohol in order to have that intimacy.
Mm. Mm.
It is an invitation. So the alcohol is an invitation into intimacy. But you're now recognizing, I think, that alcohol is unnecessary to have intimacy.
Oh yeah. No, I alcohol is one of the last things on my list when I consider what intimacy is or where it's derived from. Yeah.
You'd be surprised that most intimacy in the West is fueled by alcohol.
Oh yeah, man. It's nuts. I know. Yeah, it's pretty
And so are,
pretty
by the
crazy.
way, bar fights. Almost all
Yeah.
bar fights are fueled by alcohol.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, Alex, I think that we've come to a good place that we know what's going on. I've given you a lot to think about.
Yeah. It was really nice just to get to talk to you. Just you know, I appreciate you and look up to you a lot, and see you as a father figure. So it was nice to just kind of just let my emotions melt into our conversation. So I'm feeling it, man. I got the sad sometimes, but it's okay. It's okay.
You can handle it. There's a lot of good fish in the sea out there. You keep your eyes open, know what's
Yeah.
good. Good.
Yeah. I don't want to be with anyone right now. I don't want to go out. I don't care. The juice
Actually,
is not worth the squeeze.
the lots of good fish in the sea mentality is a good reason to not have to go fishing.
Yeah. Good.
When you think that it's really, really special and there's not enough fish out there, I got to go get mine. But when
Yeah.
you understand there's a lot of good fish in the sea, that's a good reason to not go fishing.
Yeah. I don't have to worry about dinner. It's taken care of.
All right, Alex, we'll see you later.
All right. Thanks, Dhammarato.
Uh-huh.
Appreciate you.
All righty. Bye-bye.